Hi, I'm Colin at Opus Art Supplies in Langley, and I'm here to talk to you today about sizing and gessoing a raw canvas and the importance of why. This is an essential step for any artist wishing to retain full control of their artwork right from the start. Personally, I like to stretch my own canvas. If you're unfamiliar with how to do that, you can check out our video and get some tips and techniques. Although many store-bought canvases do come pre-primed, we do suggest giving it a few more coats of gesso just to ensure the longevity of the artwork. The canvas I'll be preparing today is an unprimed 10-duct canvas. The Opus Custom Stretched Canvas service made all of the canvases that I'll be using today. I'm using 10-duct canvas because it has a tighter weave and a smoother surface. Regardless of the surface that you use, the techniques that I'll be demonstrating can be used on any type of cotton or linen canvas, and even on cradled panels. The first thing you want to do is size your canvas. Sizing your canvas means that you're sealing the canvas fibers and protecting them from breaking down over time. Traditionally, rabbit skin glue would be used, but rabbit skin glue is hygroscopic, which means that it absorbs moisture from the air, and it can expand and contract over time, causing the paint film to crack. Contemporary alternatives are the Gamblin PVA Size and the Golden GAC 400, which both work as excellent sizing agents. Today I'm going to be using the GAC 400 by Golden because it stiffens the fabric just a little bit more. I'm going to apply it with a nice wide nylon brush. And rather than shaking the sizing, I always roll it across the counter so I don't introduce any air bubbles into it. And at this point, you can simply squeeze it straight onto the canvas. So to begin with, I'll just be applying one coat of the Golden GAC 400, and this will just help tighten up the canvas nicely. And then I'll apply 2 coats of the Golden GAC 100 after it's dried. And the reason I'm doing this is primarily for acrylics. It helps to seal the canvas to prevent any support-induced discoloration, which occurs when water from the acrylic penetrates through the ground into the canvas and then can draw impurities back up through all the layers of the paint, discoloring them when it evaporates. When you're brushing this on, you want to make sure that you apply plenty of pressure and really scrub it in there and get it to fully coat the fibers all the way around. Your base coat is really your most essential. Sizing is equally important for oil paint. Oil paint is acidic, and the acids from the oil paint will penetrate through into the fibers and rot them if it's not properly sized. So you just want to remember to make sure that you get the fronts, the sides, and the backs of the canvas, just to make sure that you don't get it rotting over time. When I'm done, I just give it one gentle brush stroke, all in the same direction, just to smooth it all out. You want to let each coat of sizing dry for about 30 minutes to 1 hour before you apply your next coat. Check to see if your sizing is dry by just tapping it and see if it's tacky. If it's not tacky, place your hand on there, feel if it's cold. If it's cold, it means there's still water in there and it's not quite dry yet. This is not cold, so we're ready to go, and our next step is to just apply our gesso. Today I'm using the Opus Acrylic Gesso. Acrylic gesso is specially formulated to be nice and opaque, but just the right absorbency so that your paint will bond to it well. Gesso is normally white. It's white so that your colors will appear nice and radiant on it. When I apply my gesso, I start by putting it on the sides first, and then the back, and then I work on the front of the canvas, just so that when I do that final smooth coat, I don't mar the surface by having it done already and then moving on to the sides. Seeing as gesso is very thick, you can also add lots of texture to your painting. The more coats you use, the heavier the texture you'll get. Some people like to paint on a smooth surface, so what you can do is apply more coats of gesso and sand in between and get a very, very smooth surface. It'll need to dry for about the same time as your size, usually between 30 minutes to an hour. You know you're done applying your gesso when it doesn't look patchy. Now that we've applied our first coat of gesso, this is what our canvas will look like once the gesso is dried. The second coat of gesso would be applied on here in exactly the same manner as the first to give us our 2 coats of gesso. You can see on comparison the 2 coats of gesso is a much brighter white than the single coat. And now we're ready to apply our 3rd coat of gesso to this canvas. When each coat is dry, I make sure I turn my canvas 90 degrees so that my next finishing smooth coats are perpendicular to the previous coating, and that way you don't get too much of a buildup on one side. Less gesso will show more of the canvas color, while more will give you a smoother, whiter surface, which will show off the brilliance of your colors better. For acrylic paint, the amount of layers of gesso is really up to you. Having that GAC 100 on there is going to prevent it from discoloring, and then it just depends on how many coats of gesso you want. Usually 2 and maybe more. For oils, about 4 coats is usually pretty good. After you put your final coat of gesso on your canvas, you should have a nice even finish. Your canvas doesn't necessarily have to be white though. You could buy a black gesso. You could get clear gesso and tint it with golden fluid acrylics so that you can start your painting with a completely different tonal range. I'm Colin from Opus Langley, and thanks for watching.